Good morning and welcome to the Christ Central Devotional session. I'm Alistair Semple. I'm one of the people in the group here, and I'm going to be leading us through this morning, our continuing journey through Mark. So, Mark, you'll need to make me a co-host so I can put some screen shots up so I can read the scripture. And I am just waiting for you to work your magic, and thank you. Your magic has been worked. So this is where we start. Don't worry about the highlighted elements just at the moment. So Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane has just been praying some of the most emotional things that we have seen in his ministry, preparing himself for the next 12 to 24 hours and trying his best to also prepare some of his disciples, certainly those closest to him, for what was about to come. Literally, he has simply said, "And now my betrayer comes." Just as he was speaking, Judas, one of the 12, appeared. With him was a crowd armed with swords and clubs sent from the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. The men seized Jesus and arrested him. Then one of those standing near drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Am I leading a rebellion," said Jesus, "that you've come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I was with you teaching in the temple courts, and you didn't arrest me. But the scriptures must be fulfilled." Then everyone deserted him and fled. So, just back to the start of the passage, let me talk you through. I'll go via the highlights at this point. This is the last, Judas, one of the 12. The last time Judas is counted in the 12 is in his very act of betrayal. Some commentators think that Mark made a mistake here, but it seems that this is a deliberate thing to me, a recognition that actually Judas isn't the only one of the 12 who ultimately betrays Jesus, though his betrayal is clearly in a different league from theirs. The three chief priests, teachers of the law, the elders, these are all the different elements of the temple. They make up the Sanhedrin, the spiritual recognized leadership of what happens around the temple. And these are the ones that Jesus says, "I was with you every day in the temple." These are the ones who finally done the dirty. Others we have seen arrayed against Jesus, including the Herodians and the Sadducees, but it's the temple coordinators who are the ones that press the button. Judas is now determined as the betrayer. And he betrays, though I didn't highlight this, but he betrays with a kiss. A kiss is a sign of, with a rabbi, is a sign of a recognition of honor. It seems that betrayal with a sign of honor even got to Jesus as it happened. "You kiss me." You get the feeling, and I know that we've often talked in these sessions about the interplay between who Jesus was as a human being, who Jesus was as the Son of God, the mystery, if you like, of the incarnation. And you kind of get the impression that maybe being kissed through him a bit. 100% man, 100% God, but a difficult to see interplay between how those things worked out as he was on earth. And now we move into the red thing. "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him." And then later on, the men seized Jesus. These words in red, they are exactly the same Greek word. It's a word of a violent action. This word, which is naturally translated seized, grabbed, sort of a bit like a rugby tackle. It is pretty full on and brutal is its connotation. And the NIV in some places will translate it as arrest because it makes the sentence work better. But actually, it's exactly the same word. Every day I was with you in the temple courts, you didn't violently stop me. You didn't arrest me. But the scriptures must be fulfilled. Then everyone deserted him and fled. That was where we see finally the other disciples joining in with their own version of betrayal. The ones who said, and they had all said, I will never leave you. I will never go. Peter, famously, the one who ends up really being pulled out on that. But all of them had agreed with Peter that they would never abandon or leave Jesus. Final curious part of this passage appears in this. 51. A young man, wearing nothing but a linen garment, was following Jesus. When they seized him violently, he fled, naked, leaving his garment behind. Why is that there? What's that got to do with anything? Well, a lot of people have wondered that. And the best guess, which really has come out of 2,000 years of pondering on this idea, is that the young man might well have been Mark, who was the chap who travelled with Peter, who made the notes for Mark's gospel, wrote down Peter's preaching, which is why Mark's gospel doesn't start with a birth narrative or anything like that. It just goes into the action, very much in keeping with the sort of man that Peter was. At least that's the way the explanation goes, or the suggestion goes, that what we're seeing is that there were always more than 12 around Jesus. It's often the 12 who are mentioned because they're the key players in it. And on that fateful night in Gethsemane, around the edges was Mark, another of the disciples, not one of the 12, but another of the group around Jesus. And he kind of wrote himself into his own book. So maybe that. So final thought. Curious details. God sees the individual. Even with the biggest other things going on all around in our lives, where we might feel insignificant, where we might feel we don't count, where we might feel that we are beneath the radar and we just are getting on with our thing. No detail too small. No person too little. God sees you. With or without a linen cloth. And now we're done.